This is the text-to-speech audio version of The Observer by Philosopher. To read the full article, including analysis of trends we're observing and other content, check us out on Substack at darkphilosopher.substack.com or anywhere podcasts are broadcast. Article title: Simulation Theory. Article subtitle: NPC Theory, Mandela Effect, and the Architect. Do we live inside a simulation? Is it possible? If true, what does that even mean, and does it matter? Simulation theory has been circulating the conspiracy theory world for several years, rising to the popular zeitgeist awareness a few years ago with the popularity of the Mandela Effect. In this article, we're going to explore simulation theory from the perspective of not-so-popular conspiracies and even native folklore regarding humanoid beings traveling to our little corner of space by passing through a doorway carved in stone. For clarity, let's define a few less common words and terms. Apartheid means apartness, refers to racist policies of separating races and ranking their value within a society. NPC, non-playable character, a video game term referring to computer-simulated persons or beings. Reaping, a common term in religious texts. It refers to the collection of souls. To start, simulation theory is the theory that proposes that all reality, as we understand it, is merely a simulation run by a very powerful and advanced computer system. Within this theory, it is believed that our very laws of physics are not laws of nature, but merely coded programs designed to manage this simulated reality. Though seemingly ridiculous on its face, there do appear to be some interesting wrinkles within our reality, which may suggest this theory has more forbearance than can be waved off initially. Section title: The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect, being the progenitor to bring this idea higher into the public sphere of awareness, draws its name from none other than Nelson Mandela, born 1918 and passed 2013. A political prisoner in South Africa who spent 27 years in prison there before his eventual release. He later went on to become the first president of South Africa and, in doing so, achieved great things for that nation. Or, so we were told. As the theory goes, a certain percentage of the population alive today remembers this bit of history a little differently, whereby Mr. Mandela died in prison, leading to widespread protests and the eventual rise of a leader who would start the unification of South Africa and the ending of apartheid. From this sprung other theories under the same heading, such as the changing of the popular name Oscar Mayer to Oscar Mayer, or the famous line from Star Wars, "Luke, I am your father." The C-3PO from that franchise being entirely gold, instead of having a silver leg, which never happened, apparently. So what happened? It's been suggested by conspiracies that the CERN collider caused a black hole, or a tear in space-time, which absorbed our world and destroyed all life as we know it in a literal blink of an eye. Which, of course, begs the question, how are we still here? Section title: Native Shamans. The oral history of the native shamans in the southern United States and Mexico has an interesting tale. In short, they speak of doorways carved into the desert rock that opened a millennium ago, allowing beings from another dimension to enter our world. As the fable goes, these beings told these ancient ancestors about our universe and its coming into existence. In summary, being very advanced, these beings wanted to better understand their own universe and its creation. Therefore, they sought to create a universe of their own within a laboratory for study. This creation led to an ever-expanding universe that began to evolve within their lab. Expanding so rapidly, our universe threatened to absorb its own. As a result, they were forced to utilize pegs to keep our universe contained and continually monitor its condition to ensure their own safety. They speak of some seeding of worlds, creating life, but also that life itself, which we know can be transmitted through light by various studies of the topic, spread throughout the fertile universe before them. Time was experienced differently within the confines of our universe to their own. From their perspective, we began to evolve quickly, and therefore they traveled here to study us, as Charles Darwin, born 1809 and passed 1882, once did to the isolated Galapagos Islands in 1835.
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
Being an interesting story, this fable isn't so far out of simulation theory as to be excluded from consideration. Though the problem with verbal history, as the natives have it, is the game of telephone over generations tends to shift the stories into increasingly symbolic and visual elements over that of fact or linear events. That being said, could this universe exist within a laboratory of an advanced race? Is there a master controller who monitors and runs the program of our universe to ensure its stability and continuation? Section title: The Architect. This little theory comes from the depths of Reddit, which is summarized as follows. After the supposed CERN incident, which wiped out our immediate solar system, the Architect, much like the Matrix, sprung to restore the timelines, or at least part of them. As it retold, the Architect is a not-so-human being who exists within a framework designed to maintain the laws and orders of our known universe and all its parallel timelines. They are effectively charged with monitoring and reversing any critical alterations, such as the CERN incident or critical time travel events. After our world was destroyed, they set to rebuild this version of the universe by combining it with other timelines that also experienced the same effect. This combination led to strange alterations such as the famous cultural examples above. The Architect goes on to say, as he is the one who claims this knowledge, that his existence before inhabiting the Architect was to float among an endless well of souls, a well better described by the excluded biblical book of Enoch. Enoch describes all the past souls waiting for Judgment Day within a giant pyramid in that text, a well of souls, if you will. Quote, "And Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him," unquote. Genesis 5:24. That being said, this is merely an interesting correlation and not meant as a religious invocation. I don't believe in such concepts, but I try not to judge others who find strength in those texts. Within this curated space, our goal is to seek any relevant knowledge for consideration. Judgment, as it is with the Christian God, comes later. Remember, everything matters. Everything is relevant. The Architect describes their conditions, which are preferable to being trapped within the well of souls, as inhabiting a body is preferential to having none. Trapped within a room, much like the Architect within the Matrix trilogy. This being serves our universe, they describe the CERN incident as requiring recombining many worlds into one. For most people, this event had no impact. Most people accept everything before their eyes as truth, regardless of how superficial. These people we call the NPCs. Section title: NPC Theory. This theory has been gaining some prominence in the last few years, especially made popular by the podcaster Tim Pool from the Timcast in Real Life podcast on YouTube, where he occasionally bemoans NPC mindsets and persons. Here at TheObserver, we often refer to these individuals as cogs within the machine, which is slightly less offensive. Yet, it is important to realize that these cogs serve a valuable purpose. Most occupations, positions, and general existence don't require fully aware and fully developed beings to occupy them. Such would be a cosmic waste. The recent revelations further validate this theory that approximately half the human population doesn't think in words but defaults to thinking in pictures. The concept for them of thinking in words is ridiculous, almost primitive. They utilize their form of picturing thinking to enrich their perspectives and drive conscious cognition. Cognition. They can also become fairly aggressive when confronted with this realization, so I recommend caution when approaching this topic with others. Perhaps even you, dear reader, think in pictures. Entirely possible. In reality, we don't yet know what this means. Psychologists haven't yet explored this field of intrigue, and many are completely unaware this phenomenon even exists within half the population or greater. Nor do we know if the picture-thinking individuals are truly the NPCs or if it's the other way around. Everyone tends to defend their perception over any other, as is natural. The only other immediate reference in this context can be found in the lore of one text. Here, buried within a mountain of highly complex concepts, rests the idea of higher density beings, beings which are higher dimensional, who return to this dimension after already being reaped to assist the future reaping of earthy children of the third density of 9. That particular text goes on to describe most people on Earth as being young souls, relatively speaking, who must pass through the trials of each density to eventually return to the ninth density and, therefore, become one with what most would interpret as God, or more specifically, living energy or onness. There it is suggested that these NPC persons are inexperienced souls who lack the depth of millions of years of re-inhabiting experiences or expressions of density and personhood, as we understand it. This truly brings the phrase old soul into some interesting new perspective. The text goes on to further say that any being inhabited here can also become trapped within this density and therefore forced into the cycle of other younger souls, repeating this density experience endlessly until they are reaped. Finally, the text continues by explaining the concept regarding returning to this density as a form of service to others in the soul's pursuit of ultimate return to God, a treacherous proposition with equal risk to reward, it appears. Remember, regardless of what you wish to believe or understand to be true, everything presented here is a conspiracy theory. However, this information gives us observers something interesting to consider as we move through this reality, developing our understanding of what is, what isn't, and what could be. If anything you've just read is upsetting, disturbing, or beyond any possible conceptualization you could begin to accept, don't concern yourself too deeply. Understanding, as they say, isn't of this density. This is the end of the text-to-speech audio version of TheObserver by Philosopher. For more content, including our trends analysis, see our Substack at darkphilosopher.substack.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future articles. As always, farewell and good luck. Signed, Dark Philosopher.